Hey guys, so now that we know what variables are and how you can use them in programs, let's get on to the next thing, which are conditional statements. So the question that I have for you now is, let's say you have a variable whose name is gender, and the value that it can have would be either male or female. So it could be where gender equal to male or where gender equal to female. Now you have to print Mr. or Mrs. based on what is the value in the variable gender. A use case that you can think for this is when you go to Flipkart and it says welcome Mr. X or welcome Miss X, it realizes on the basis of this particular variable what it has to print, right? So that's what we're trying to solve today. And to solve this, we have something which are called conditional statements. So if I write something like if gender equal to female, print MRS, else print MR. So what I'm doing over here is that I'm telling the program to print MRS if the value of the variable gender is female, and otherwise if it is not female then print Mr. So even if it is something random, it will print Mr. Okay, if I run this, it will tell me that I'm not authorized to edit this page, so I'll refresh because the page ideally became stale, or I don't know. Anyways, so the answer was Mr. So what happened over here is, based on this condition, the man that started going from the top, first it got the value of male into gender, then it came over here and it said, okay, is this condition met? Is gender equal to, and as you can see there are two equals to over here, not one. Is gender equal to female? If that is true, then execute this, else execute this. So the man will go inside either this block or this block depending on this condition, whether or not this condition is met. This is a very famous way to target conditions, and it's used in almost every language, and it's a very fundamental concept. You can extend this and check for multiple conditions. So let's just first try to print my name. So let's say I have another variable by the name of Harkirat, whose value is Harkirat, and I'll print Mrs. name or Mr. name depending on the gender. So since I'm a male, the value of the gender variable is male and the value of the name is my name, and when I run it, it will print Mr. Harkirat. Okay, so what happened over here? The man started moving from the top, finally reached here since the condition was not met, came over here, printed this, reached this line, there's nothing else to execute, came out. Okay. Now you might be asking why can't I simply write print Mr. and print Harkirat over here directly, because I already know that the gender is male. I am only assigning this value, right? The reason is that in this case you are assigning the value, but in most of the cases this value will come from someplace else, and so you will need these conditions. You actually don't know what the value of the gender variable is. In this case we're setting it, but in most cases, in most programs, it will be coming from some other place that you don't know. All you know is that the gender variable contains something, and on the basis of that you have to perform something. Okay, so that's why in this case you could probably just write Mr. Harkirat, because you know that's what this program is supposed to do. But in most cases this will either be a function or this will have these inputs coming from some other place, so you will need conditional statements. You could also nest these. So let's say I want to check for two conditions. Let's say Harkirat is the CEO of a company, and whenever I want to print his name, I want to print welcome Mr. CEO Harkirat, or welcome CEO Mr. Harkirat. Okay, so I'll check if gender equal to male and name equal to Harkirat. So this is and. What this means is both of these conditions, only if both of these conditions are met will I execute this. If either of these conditions is not true, it will execute this. Since in this case the gender is male and the name is Harkirat, I have to print Mr. CEO Harkirat. And if I run it, that's what it printed. So you can nest these and check for multiple conditions in the same place. The second important one is OR, two pipes. What this means is if either of these two conditions are met, it will execute this, else it will execute this. To give you a live example of this, let's say there can be multiple people with the name Harkirat, and anyone with the name Harkirat is always a male, and irrespective of the gender variable. Okay, this is a very weird example, but let's say you can either have the gender as male or you can have the name as Harkirat. Either of these two cases, you have to print Mr. This guy will always be a male. So anyone with the name Harkirat is a male, and anyone who has the gender variable as male is a male. So in this case, it will print Mr. Harkirat in either of two cases. Very bad example to give, but I hope you get the idea. The idea is that you can check for multiple conditions over here. You can keep putting more conditions, and based on those conditions, this section will get executed. If any of those conditions are not met in this case, or if you're using AND, then if all of those conditions are not met, any one of those is not met, it will execute the second section. These are conditional statements, and I used very important, used a lot in a lot of languages, and you will also encounter this a lot in your journey. And after this, the one last fundamental concept that's left is functions. After dealing with functions, we'll start getting into some advanced things like classes and prototypes. I'm not sure if we are going to discuss them in this course, or we'll move directly to implementing comparative programs, because comparative programs most of the times don't require more than functions to execute. And that's